one of the things that I couldn't figure out, I said, now this property was owned by Warwick. They came to the village and got the PDD. And then, after they got the PDD, they got the PDD on the condition that about 4.5 acres be given to the village as a gift. It was 9 building lots. And that 9 building lots was included in what was approved by the planning board and the village board. So they got approval for 49 units, then turned around and gave 9 units back to the village. And then, so Warwick owned it, then the village owned it. Now Peter Belmonte of Belmonte Builders is saying, you know what, we like that land, we'd like to buy it back from the village. And that happened about 2 years ago. So the village sold him. Initially, there was thought about putting a library there, but that didn't work out. So the village decided to sell it back to him. So he bought it back. And that was 2 years ago or so, or whatever it was. And now Belmonte Builders is saying, you know what? We want to build there. But we're not going to do the 9 lots. We only want to do 5 lots. So that means we have to amend the PDD legislation to make it work. So what we're looking at tonight is the change from 9 lots to 5 lots. And in our paperwork is a description of what the 5 lots will look like. And that was my main concern, was the fact that, number one, does the PDD legislation go with the land, or does it go with the owner? And that was my initial thought too, that it goes with the land. But that's why I wanted the village attorney here tonight, who called me at 1 o'clock and said, I can't be here. And then I got another phone call from the secretary saying, I'm stuck in Niagara, New York, I can't get back. And then Fred said last week he couldn't come. So I think what the village board is looking for from us is take a look at it, tell us what you think, and it's up to the village board whether they amend the PDD legislation or not. And if they say, yeah, we like this, we think it's a good thing, then we would start the process up to review the new subdivision. And that's how I see this whole thing playing out. So the village board is asking us to say yes or no. Do we think this is a good idea, or do we not? And before Mike starts, because I've looked at the drawings for a while, and so one of the things that also concerned me was there's a lot of trees back by that stream. And there's an old foundation of an old farmhouse back in there. So that I thought, oh. So I walked the property and said, you know what, I'm going to add a buffer to the original drawings, and let's see if that will fly, will work. I'd like to see, there is a buffer because, and in behind these lots, there's a stream, and it's listed by the Army Corps, and it's a 100-year floodplain. So I wanted to increase that 100-year floodplain by actually 45 feet, to be honest. And so when Mike came in tonight, they increased it by 50 feet. And I said, wow, that makes me feel somewhat comfortable. So I'll let you explain it.
Okay. Mike D'Anchino with Lansing Engineering. I'm here representing Pete Belmonte. This basically, the brief history, just to reiterate what Peter said, the Hillman Estates PDD was approved by the village board in 2013. It included the entire parcel here. The Griffin's Ridge subdivision, which was as a result of the rezoning, the creation of the PDD, was approved by the planning board in April of 2014. Construction of the subdivision started in 2015, and home sales and construction continues, is ongoing right now. What we're proposing to do, as Peter indicated, is to request a revision of this section of the subdivision. This is, again, the overall subdivision as it was approved, including this little cul-de-sac here. And that's the area that we're interested in revising. This is a blow-up map showing what was originally approved. It's basically 9 lots with a short cul-de-sac that was going to be dedicated to the village as a village road. The lots ranged in size from 0.17 acres to 0.41 acres. The total area of this section that was impervious, basically houses, roadways, sidewalks, was about 0.58 acres. And there was a preservation area designated by this dark line along the back. This is the area that was wetlands, and the stream corridor back here, the little plus signs. This was a preservation area that was originally approved to buffer that area. That added up to about 0.34 acres within this portion of the subdivision. Again, 9 lots with a cul-de-sac. What the third sheet that I had passed out to everybody basically shows the original underneath with the overlay on top of it. So if you get a comparison of, what was originally approved, as you can see, there's a house back here, 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 and here, that was originally approved, and then what's proposed. Except for this one, everything else is basically pushed forward away from the wetland area. So what we're proposing and requesting of the village board, who we asked the planning board for their opinion, was 5 lots. All of them would have frontage on West Avenue or Village Circle North. These lots range in size from 0.33 acres to 0.76 acres. We eliminate the cul-de-sac, push the houses farther away from the wetland. The total impervious area has been reduced down to 0.35 acres, which is a reduction of about 60%. We've included, as was discussed at the village board meeting, an additional 50 feet of buffer, and that's about another 0.39 acres of area that would be left undisturbed. That brings the total preservation area up to 0.73 acres, almost to 3/4 of an acre, and that's about a 115% increase over what was originally approved. So the proposal reduces the number of lots from 9 to 5, eliminates the cul-de-sac, provides additional green space, reduced impervious area. The combination of that should be a slight reduction in the overall runoff, stormwater runoff from this area, which will mean the original stormwater management plan, which is going to be constructed as was originally designed and approved and has been constructed, will be somewhat conservative because we're reducing basically some of the runoff from this area. The lot widths are consistent with, the lot widths and the areas are consistent with and typical with the overall subdivision, and they're consistent with some of the larger lots in other locations in the village. The home models and styles proposed here are the same ones that are in the existing approved subdivision. This footprint, which is a little bit wider footprint, is a ranch footprint. There are 2 of them built already within the subdivision. And the footprint itself is a little bit wider, which is one of the reasons why these larger, wider, slightly wider lots to accommodate those lots there. It's a very popular model with Belmonte builders and they've been trying to find a spot that maybe put some of those in. This would accommodate those lots, those units. We did present this to the village board on the 28th of August. It was at that meeting referred to the planning board for an advisory opinion, a recommendation. Here to answer any other questions, and hopefully the planning board would issue a positive recommendation back to the village board so that they can consider the revisions to the PDD. Once the village board acts on the plan development district modifications, we would then get our application in for a subdivision of lands, basically lot line adjustments and revision to the subdivision, and we would be back in front of the planning board where we have a public hearing, the normal subdivision process. So, any questions? I'm here to answer.
Yeah, I'd like to get back to the indication you have that this plan development district runs with the property. There's been, number one, the plan development district was not signed with Belmont Builders, it was signed with Warwick Development, who is not you. And then this property was sold and or given as a gift. I don't know exactly what the actual arrangement was to the village. So the village had possession of it for a certain period of time. And then it appears that Belmonte Builders bought back essentially the property on a lot-by-lot basis, purchased of each of the 9 lots over there. The other part, just to throw in here, is that some of this buffer area, Belmonte does not own. It's still owned by Warwick Development. I failed to report the actual acreage of that, but they still own it. And there's a note in the tax map that is to be deeded to the village.
Correct. Let me address these beginning to end. Number one, when the village board approves a plan development district, regardless of who the applicant is, it's a rezoning of the land that follows the land regardless of who owns it. Plan development districts are often approved for a developer who then turns around and sells the lots or the land itself to a builder. So when the village board changed the zoning to create a plan development district, basically they created a new zone. It's a plan development district zone. And as with any rezoning, regardless of who owns the land, the plan development district zoning goes with the land. That's number one. Going to your last question first. The edge of the land that Warwick still owns is here. It is not these lots, it's these lots. Warwick had agreed as part of the PDD, as part of the condition, to sell that land or to give that land to the village. That sale was never consummated, it was never filed. The village never accepted or never dedicated that. That land was never dedicated. And it was, as I understand it from Mr. Daly, he still owned it, and the village was not interested in it because they were not interested in putting the library on that parcel. In 2000, and I have the deed here, the file deed, 2017, there's a file deed that the entire, it's basically 2.44 acres, 2.4 acres plus or minus, was sold to Belmonte Builders. And that deed has been filed. And the tax maps are set up with the cul-de-sac and the 9 lots. So the area that we're talking about and the additional buffer area that we've shown on our map that we would used as preservation area, that does belong to and is owned by Belmont Builders at this point,
Right.
as is the rest of it.
And the tax map indicates that $135,000 was paid for those 9 lots, something to that effect. Maybe 160, I forgot, I'll look it up.
Mhm. I'm not
So
sure.
So what you're saying is the village never owned it, but the oral history that I have of this is that the village was paid somewhere between $360,000 and $400,000 to not own it.
Yeah. I mean, I think what the PDD legislation indicated that would be given to the village as basically a condition of the PDD.
Right.
I believe the PDD language was modified when the village no longer wanted it. And in lieu of the land, Warwick then paid for it to get it to basically, it was money
Okay,
in
so
lieu of.
that the gift of the property was replaced by the gift of money.
Correct.
So the village never owned it.
As far as I know, based on the deed transfers and so on,
Yeah, the tax indication indicates that the transfers of the 9 lots was directly from
Warwick,
Warwick to
Belmont.
Belmonte, one at a time.
Okay. I mean, I've got a deed that shows it
Right.
dedicated.
So the other interesting part is Belmonte is, those lots are assessed at $80,000 each. And in the neighborhood of 0.2, 0.4, 0.3 acres, that sort of stuff. And the property that Warwick owns is assessed at $100. I find that strange.
Well, the property that Warwick still owns
Right.
is the preservation area, the wetlands, the stormwater management area, which has, other than for stormwater management, it has no intrinsic value from an assessment standpoint. Whereas this 2.4 acres has 9 lots in a row, basically, that's approved on it. So the value is significantly higher than what the,
So what's your reason, or Belmonte's reason, to go from 9 to 5? Why not sell 9 houses for 5?
well, because he's got people who are interested in this ranch model. That he only had 2 lots in the approved subdivision that's been built where he could fit that model because of the narrower lots. But he does have 2, one at that corner and one up at the other corner. Basically, I think this one is that model and this one is that model. And he's had people who are interested in building that model in this subdivision, and he would like to have the opportunity to be able to give them that rather than sending those folks to one of his other subdivisions.
So why not modify 2 other adjacent non-built upon lots to get that model?
I think he thinks this would work out to his benefit, and he's fine with it.
So nothing has been found in terms of suitability of the property to say that you cannot build the 9 houses that were originally approved.
No.
It's just it's a purchaser demand.
Exactly. He's got people who are interested in that model, and he doesn't have any lots left where that model will fit. To the point where they had taken that model off the listing in the website because they knew they didn't have any lots left where they could fit that model. But disapproved, he'll add that floor plan back on his website.
Why not combine two of the already approved lots on the cul-de-sac to build that model?
I'm assuming if he feels he can get them on these sides, on these lots, and not have to build the road, he'll save himself building the road.
I think that's one of the drawbacks of this plan, is putting 5 driveways on what amounts to the in and out route for, some of that is for the entire project, and the other 3 are for half the project.
There's 2 driveways here, there's a driveway across the street. I don't really think 2 driveways in this small of a subdivision is gonna be a significant impact here. There was already, if you look at the approved plan, 1 driveway, this is 1 extra driveway. If you look at the rest of the subdivision, these lots, in some instances, these driveways are much closer together than what we're proposing here. I think this is a very reasonable request in terms of, and I think it's, quite honestly, a win-win for the village. I mean, we've got less infrastructure, the village has got to worry about maintaining in the future, fewer lots, more buffer. I think this is, I think this is a good proposal.
So you mentioned having to go through subdivision in order to do this.
After the village board approves the modifications to the PDD, yes.
But is that subdivision under our local law?
Yeah.
You've got to have 5 acres for a major subdivision under our local law.
Well, it's a modification of a previously approved subdivision.
Well, although previously approved PDD, but that's why I want to know the language, which is the language that applies, because if it's a subdivision, that doesn't qualify as a subdivision under our law.
Well, technically, it's a lot line adjustment.
Okay.
And it's a sub-addition, quite honestly, because we're eliminating lots, but,
I wonder, so, it probably is more of a lot line adjustment. But, okay, so it goes to the planning board for a lot line adjustment. We would have, my concern would be I'd want to get our engineer in here to take a look at it. I mean, it's a little bit more complex than just a simple lot line adjustment.
but it's actually much less complex than what was originally
Oh, yeah,
approved.
oh, most definitely. That's how I feel.
So it'll come back, goes to the village board, then it'll come back to us with more detail.
Right. We would have, in the end, we would have to approve the lot line adjustment, and we'd look at the water situation, we'd look at, everything else we would look at with the development.
Is that going to, in one of those lots, there's a 6-foot slope, as indicated by the 2-foot contours? Is this going to require the bringing in of a lot of soil or leveling stuff or not?
It will require much less earthwork and fill and grading than the originally approved subdivision, much less, because we're trying to put the buildings closer to the road, away from the wetlands, away from the slopes. We're trying to say up front, where if you go out there and look at it, the right of way is pretty much all been graded off the roadway, off the sidewalk, and it's been kind of already graded, so significantly less earthwork and grading than what was already approved.
Again, I looked at this and said, well, I like the idea of 5 lots rather than 9 lots. I was hoping to get a bigger buffer zone, and we're getting a bigger buffer zone. I don't know what happens with the buffer zone, that goes with the homeowner. Or is it's land conservation that goes with the, in other words, do we rezone that buffer zone land conservation? Or I think it had initially shown that it was some of the land off to the right-hand side was going to be land conservation. Do we make that land conservation also?
I think it's deed restricted as I mean, I think the preservation area that exists was within the lots.
Okay.
And it was just
Deed restricted.
okay, basically as preservation area. And we would just basically extend that line another 50 feet, and that would be the same language.
Does the language of the homeowners association have any bearing on this change?
No.
My only concern is we have one homeowner who, we have a 20-foot buffer on some of the lots, and one homeowner decided to take out that 20-foot buffer. And
Clear.
clear it. It was scrubbed, there was,
It's not it.
no.
What?
No,
What?
and it was scrubbed, it was not, there were no trees there, it was just bushes. Then he wanted to come in and put a fence up, and my feeling was, you can do that, but you can't put it in the buffer area. You have to move the fence
Outside.
outside the buffer area. And we haven't really finalized, but that's just my take, and my concern would be, I wouldn't want the homeowners to go there and start cutting trees down.
And I go just as a resident of that area, that as you come in west, you go by the mailboxes, you see there's woods. It looks like this line to the lot line is very close to where the wetlands were, where there's no trees. So basically clearing a line of buffer that really blocks a lot of the sound that comes off of Route 9. Because between that point and Route 9, there really is only some small scrub trees. So basically right in here, and I think that's the kind of thing that sort of what we do in the entire neighborhood. I'm not that close to it, so it's probably less me, but certainly other people. That's one of the issues about maintaining some level of buffer at that point. I don't know where that exactly where that line is, in terms of where the trees start and where they don't. If there's a line of trees or of some substance, then that's fine. But like I said, you're afraid you come right down to the where there's wetland there, then you lose that sound barrier there. So right down by that first lot of
Yeah, I mean, well,
right
again,
there, yeah.
this is the preservation area, this is the approved. I mean, we haven't moved that line. I mean, we haven't.
Right, so we're just.
It's not, we're not going into the
No,
area.
right.
And this is,
Yeah, there's a section where there's no trees, and there's a line of trees.
yeah,
And a section of trees, just how much they would cut down, and it's probably affect.
But in that plan, it should be before you put that. In that plan, building 49 there, the easternmost building.
yeah,
In order to build that lot as shown there, you would have to take down a lot of trees.
Right.
That's the question.
Correct.
Right. And building number 5 of the new plan sits essentially on top of building number 41, is the old plan,
Right.
as you see in that overlay. So you still got to take down trees.
Although definitely just what they leave in terms of the opening, that opens up to Route 9, which is maybe 75 yards from that spot. But overall, I don't,
No
in
changes.
terms of the driveways,
I,
I mean, it looks like there's nobody looking there, so now that there are more, I'd say the traffic is pretty light. I don't see two major issues other than what you would expect from that many more houses. The other thing is that this, I mean, you kind of that, let's see what number it is, the one that's here, is that set away from the road for a reason, farther away? As
This
opposed-
one?
That just to create symmetry with the house that has to be set back.
Again, it's this one.
Right, well, the one next to it is set, that one is set farther away from the street than.
Lot 2. This one is set farther away because, again, it's that model, that's a wider branch model.
No, the one next to it though is set farther away from the street than it is like the one.
I think it was just to,
It's
is to give kind of a transition, yeah, rather than, as we pointed out, that lot up in south, the one where the house actually sits almost directly behind or faces it. So I think what we were trying to depict here is, if this one needs to be back because of the width of that model, we would want to transition back so that we don't end up with that same thing. But again, if somebody decides that this is a different model in this location, then, we probably
I would have,
push it.
that house, that access road runs there, so that house is gonna be atypical, it's not like it's set
Yeah.
out to a bunch of other houses this way, and it's
Yeah.
there's a road next to it, so
Right.
I don't think that would be very much, it wouldn't be a problem, the house would be different except in a different way anyway, so. And part of it would be very close to the access road, so it would have that feel of not being distant from the.
Mhm.
Well, my initial thought when I saw it is, if I had that house, I'd put a fence up. You're right next to the footprint. But that, honestly, I'm there 3 days a week. There's not a lot of traffic, there's not a lot of people walking in there, there's not a lot, there's more going on up at Victoria Lane.
So, on the new plan, the footprint of houses 1, 4, and 5 are, the footprints are identical, in mirror image, but
Yeah.
what's that footprint?
It's a ranch model.
About 2,300 square feet.
Yep. It's basically this model here. It's built in 2 spots in the existing subdivision, but because it's a ranch, it's a fairly wide footprint, and that's the reason why it doesn't fit on a lot of the lots in the existing.
That's that house,
That's
The one next to that.
your neighbor. Oh, no,
This is
no,
right, I'm sorry, that's this house, is
It's
that.
tilted, they couldn't fit it straight on the lot.
So this house is that.
Yeah.
well, that's what I'm looking at lot number 4, and the positioning of that big footprint on that lot in order to preserve I assume those are 10-foot
Setbacks.
setbacks, left and right.
Mhm.
You put a smaller, well, but you can't put the 4 house on either the 2 or the 3 lots. can you?
Correct. I mean, that's what we were trying to do. What we were trying to do is, out of the 5 lots, come up with 3 that you could get that ranch model on if
And that's the biggest one you've been building.
that's the biggest footprint.
footprint.
There are other houses in that subdivision that are larger square footage, but
Right,
they're
no,
two-story.
I'm talking about footprints.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's, let me phrase it this way, it's the widest footprint. There are some of the ranch models that are long and narrow that may be a similar footprint, but, you know, because of the fact that the range itself is this wide and then the garage is basically along the front. That's similar footprint.
And count-wise, how many of those would be in the development?
If he was able, if he was sold 3 of them here, there'd be 5.
Total 5, so the 2 existed.
Correct.
And what's your mix of styles? You're required to have it in a PDD, you're required to have a mix of styles, right?
The PDD language does not specify a number or a percentage.
Right, I didn't specify a number, but what
But
is the mix?
In this, I believe there are at least 8, I think 9 models, if this one's back in.
Right.
And Peter can correct me if I'm wrong. because you-
Yeah, my only concern about this particular model is, and I approached Peter Belmonte about it. I said, you know, we really wanted to have more porch on these houses. And this particular model does not have a lot of porch. And he said, well, if you read the PDD legislation, it says,
A porch.
it says it has to be, let's say, 6 feet. And these are 6 feet. You don't specify whether it's deep or 6 feet long. That's the way we should have. We'd like to see more porch in these houses. I mean, you could modify these, you know, people come in and say, yeah, we like a little bit bigger porch.
We want a motion tonight, we have a recommendation to the village board about acceptance or not.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. I like it. I think it gave me the extra buffer that I wanted. I think 5 is better than 9. It's less roof and concrete. I would recommend that the village board to go for it, to say yes, to amend the PDD. It does come back to us, so for any fine tuning we want to do, we can do that.
I like it too. You're having less driveways, less cars going in and out.
So I guess we'll take a vote. I'll make it official.
The cul-de-sac on the original plan, created a small community there. This is laying, 5 houses on the street.
See, I like that better too, because with the cul-de-sac, we had this little group of 9 homes or 8 homes that hugged that cul-de-sac and separated them from the rest. Now I feel like they're more a part of
I agree.
the total development.
I think it's also going to be easier for the snowplow.
Oh, yeah. But,
Can't really push that corner, like I said, that pushes the house relatively close to the street, kind of closes that area in a little bit, right now it seems open, but then there are no houses there. So I kind of think it does kind of bring up the rest of the neighborhood and just bring the whole neighborhood closer, bigger, different feel than sort of just driving off into another section, I feel.
so I make a motion, I think I can make a motion.
I guess you can.
I'll make a motion that we give the thumbs up or say yes to the village board, that we think it's a good thing.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. Yes,
Yes?
Yes.
yes, so it's unanimous.
Excellent.
Done.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I'll leave those for you, the extra copies, in case anybody. See you when,
Yeah, I don't know.
chief over there.
Yeah.
Quickly
I
make it
think
back.
you would set that with Kim, call the office, let Kim say what we on the agenda.
For the town board, or the village board?
Village board, which
Yeah.
I think is next week. I'm not sure, but I think it is.
Again. Has nothing to do with this.
Sure.
Skip wants to know about that bike path. When is it going to be open? Going towards the camp. Have you heard anything?
I thought it was open already.
No, we drove down there 2 weeks ago.
Which section are you talking about?
We go all the way down that way, going towards,
Coons Corner.
No, Coons Crossing.
Coons Corner.
I know that they had some damage there, a landslide that they had to repair.
okay.
I will ask Jason right now.
I appreciate it, because we
Pave it all
were
the way
riding our bikes down there.
Pardon?
Pave it all the way up to Coons Crossing.
They did.
From Mechanical, I know they